Leaking pipes have failed to stem the flow of profits at Severn Trent. The UK utility company has posted a 9.5% rise in full-year profits. Joining us to look at the sector is Geraint, a utilities analyst from Dresdner Kleinwort. Let's kick off with the actual figures, Geraint, and welcome. I know this is the first time for you on the program. The overall numbers, what do you make of them?
They were quite strong. We had profit before tax growth of 9.5%. EPS was up about 15%. I think in terms of profit before tax, that was about 2.5% above my numbers, and I think I was at the top end of consensus. So reasonably strong numbers relative to expectations.
And of course, there are these worries that they're going to be missing their leakage targets. How should the market be dealing with an announcement like that?
Well, in terms of leakage targets, the actual fines that may be received, I think they're quite small relative to the size of the group. And in that sense, I don't think the market's going to be overly concerned about that. I think of more interest to the market was the departure or the announcement of the departure of the Chief Executive, Colin Matthews.
And the man who's being set in to take his job, Mr. Tony Ray, does he have the background in order to lead the company on, especially as they've been really restructuring quite substantially? I mean, their strategy has changed quite a bit over the past year or so.
Yeah, he joined in 2005. He came from National Grid and formerly there from Lattice. He is seen as an operational man more than anything, perhaps quite young and perhaps not hugely experienced as a potential FTSE 100 company chief executive. Having said that, the company has divested most of its non-water businesses now, so perhaps that's the sort of man you need in charge. We still got Colin Matthews up until the end of the year, but I think his departure has caused a little bit of weakness in the shares because he was seen as pretty effective, very dynamic, and perhaps most of all, perhaps slightly amenable to the company being taken over, which, of course, is quite good news in a sector that's full of M&A potential at the moment.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on all the M&A rumors that we're hearing about in the utilities sector? Where are we going to see consolidation? Which particular regions are we going to see the most consolidation in?
Well, my view is that consolidation amongst the larger water companies is still pretty unlikely. Ofwat, the regulator, is dead set against that happening. So the more likely predator is the infrastructure fund, and according to certain figures, about $150 billion was raised by infrastructure funds in 2006. Very little of it was spent. If you look at the potential candidates on the continent, they tend to be quite protectionist, and therefore the UK water company does seem vulnerable, particularly because it does tick all the boxes that they're looking for. It's got predictable cash flows, it's got regulated monopolistic returns, and it's indeed got index-linked returns, which are particularly attractive to these kind of funds. So if anyone's going to do any taking over, in my mind, it's likely to be an infrastructure fund. We've obviously got Southern Water being sold by the Royal Bank of Scotland. We'll see what interest that brings. But the question, of course, is whether they can make the sums do the sums correctly when you've got premiums to regulatory asset values of somewhere between 15% and 20% for most of these companies.
Geraint, if you were to rate Severn Trent as opposed to some of its rivals out there, would it be a buy for you? Would it be a preference as opposed to some of the other companies that exist?
Yes. In terms of, on a relative basis, in a sector that is quite expensive as a result of speculation about M&A, I think this is one of the cheaper companies. It's trading on a premium to its regulatory capital value of about 16%, where its peers on average are about 20%. I believe one of the reasons why they're trading at that discount is because there's uncertainty related to these fines that it faces. I think that will be resolved in the next few months, or certainly before the end of the year, and I think the number that it will be fined will be less than expected. On that basis, I think that bridge can be narrowed, and they could actually reach a premium to RAB similar to that of its peers.
And just for disclosure reasons, I note also that Dresdner Kleinwort, or an affiliate, you make a market in Severn Trent or Pennon.
That's correct, yes.
Good. Geraint, thank you very much, Geraint Anderson, a utilities analyst from Dresdner Kleinwort.
Thank you.